Now, of course, there's more than 800 dead in Gaza, including members of your own extended family. Do you know what happened to them?
They were just sitting at their home and they were simply bombarded. Their entire building was brought down. My cousin, Aya, her two children, her husband, her mother-in-law, and two other relatives died immediately, were killed instantly. And two of her youngest children, a twin, 2 years old, are now in intensive care. This is truly heartbreaking. And the issue here, Kirsty, is that they have no bunkers, they have no Iron Dome, they have nowhere to go. They are simply sitting ducks for the Israeli war machine.
I'm sorry for your own personal loss. I mean, can I just be clear, though? You cannot condone the killing of civilians in Israel, can you, nor the kidnapped families?
No, we don't condone. And we are very clear, Kirsty. We reject any targeting or harming of civilians from all sides. And you are talking to a Palestinian representative, official, the ambassador, that I represent my government, the PLO, the national movement of Palestine. And we have been committed to this for 30 years, not just today or yesterday. For 30 years, since the signing of the Oslo Accords, we have committed to non-violence. We have committed to negotiations, as you know.
Yes, and
so this is nothing new. That's why this question, we have done everything in our power to find a different path.
But we have a situation now, as you heard there from Mark, that Hamas may be an empty threat, threatening to kill hostages. Do you condemn that kind of action?
Listen, hostages must be protected and must be made safe and kept safe. Absolutely, this has no discussion whatsoever. We must return the moral high ground, and Israel must immediately cease targeting civilians. And by the way, Kirsty, allow me to say this. This is an Israeli military doctrine. They call it the Iron Dome. Whenever there is such an incident, they go after the civilians to pressure the fighters. So you've heard one of the Israeli
we know there's been a lot of strikes
just 2 minutes ago. He wanted to starve the people in Gaza. He wanted to cut electricity and water. These are war crimes, collective punishment.
So there is a possibility that both the UK and the European Commission will cut aid to Palestinians. What's your reaction to that?
That would be very, very counterproductive, and it doesn't serve anything. They will do exactly what is Israel doing. They will do exactly the collective punishment and punishing the people who has nothing to do with this. My cousin is not Hamas. In fact, her husband works for the Palestinian Authority, the opponents of Hamas. These kids, 4 years and 2 years, have nothing to do with Hamas. Everybody, including these silly ideas in the world, are punishing the people that have nothing to do with this.
Well, look, first of all, the entire situation has been provoked by the surprise attack by Hamas during a national holiday in Israel, and it was done, I'm afraid, in the cruelest possible way. It was a terror operation. They killed innocent civilians, children, elderly people, youth attending a music festival. It really was impossible to accept any justification for what Hamas did, and I certainly join in the condemnation of the terrorist act. That's my strong personal view, and I think many of us feel this way. At the same time, while we understood the Prime Minister's standing up for Israel, showing solidarity at this time of great grief and this horror that has been visited upon them, at the same time we felt that his statement was incomplete, because we felt that at the same time we needed to remember that there was a larger issue at stake here, and the reason behind all of this, which is that there is a dehumanizing occupation continuing in many places. The people of Gaza have felt imprisoned in that strip for a long time. The people of the West Bank have a wall which is interfering with their normal freedom of movement and conditions of life. It's a difficult situation for the Palestinians, especially since settlement building, construction of new homes for Jewish settlers in the occupied territories has been continuing unabated all these years. And therefore, the grand bargain under which the PLO gave up the way of the gun and chose the way of peace and dialogue, and the world was heading towards a two-state solution, that has essentially been completely stagnant. For the last 2.5 decades, there's been no progress on that. And Israel has had, under Prime Minister Netanyahu, a very tough government that has made not only no compromise towards the Palestinians, but has also been continuing what the world considers illegal settlements in the occupied territories. Now, this is a context, and I say this only because for us in the Congress Party, and traditionally for India, the position is very clear. We want both Israelis and Palestinians to live in peace and dignity behind secure borders and conditions where neither has to fear for their lives at any time. Today, Israelis are fearing for their lives and Palestinians are fearing for their lives. The death toll on both sides is mounting every day. And that, to my mind, is certainly not something that India welcomes in any shape or form. We want to see this matter halt and peace be restored.
For a Muslim, it is easy to say कि भाई हमारा सबसे पंगा है, हमारा उधर ज्यूज से पंगा है, हमारा इधर हिंदू से प्रॉब्लम है, ठीक है, हमारा कम्युनिस्ट से भी झगड़ा है, हमारा क्रिश्चियन से भी उधर प्रॉब्लम है, बिकॉज वी आर द ओनली राइट कम्युनिटी, वी हैव द ओनली राइट मैसेज, ठीक है, वो उसके लिए बोलना आसान है, सब गलत है, हम ही सही हैं. What I don't understand is a lot of leftists from the different communities who support this nonsense. How do they convince themselves कि हाँ भाई इनका सबके साथ झगड़ा है तो जरूर सब में ही प्रॉब्लम है, ये तो इनमें तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो सकती. Now how they sleep at night is beyond me.
One question which I wanted to throw up to Umar, Arsha and Zahak. Umar, you can come in first. See, there is a very tricky, complex thing here, Umar. As non-conformists within our community, we know what we get from the radicals and the conservatives, right? Sold out, Sanghis, Jewish agents and everything, right? Because we want to tell them, start using rationality, start accepting the fact that other people's faith is as dear to them as yours is. Your faith is equal, it's not supreme, right? But there is this victimhood which plagues our mindset across the world, right? We are eternal victims. There are situations where we really are victims. I mean, by we, what I mean, the religious affiliation towards Palestinians. At the root cause, yes, a wrong has been done to them. But Umar, it's very tricky, right? When you hear from other non-Muslims who are these naive idiots who say, but at the root cause, what has happened to them? But you want to tell them, listen, idiot, for many Muslims, even your very existence is an oppression for them because as a polytheist, you're existing. How do you battle this, explaining to someone that Muslim victimhood is a very tricky thing? Because Muslims in Pakistan, even after they have erased the minorities, still feel that they are victims, right? There is a section within India, even though they are in one of the most open, secular, free countries, where they can support Hamas, have no repercussions if they do the same in Saudi, and many things, like Gohar can lead a life where, she can get killed for by Hamas. How tough do you, and then Zahak and Arsha, feel this? Because victimhood, right, the root cause is correct there, but that doesn't mean that the end game can be where, you're abducting women, killing them, parading them naked and saying, you understand where they're coming from. So want your answer on that.
Like you correctly said, the Muslim victimhood is a very tricky thing because many a times it can be very much rooted into reality, but many a times it can have nothing to do with reality at all. There are certain instances when we see the Muslim community engaging in the victimhood narrative, like you said, even when they're in majority, sometimes, even when they're in minority, when they have democratic rights. For example, in whole of Middle East, I think the only place a Muslim can cast a vote is Israel, if I'm not wrong. And that is the only place they have the democratic freedom to cast a vote. In India, we have the absolute freedom that any individual can have of any other religion, right? But the victimhood thing does not end. And in a debate, I've written about it also. In a debate, there was this guy, Tanveer Ahmed, I don't know his full name. So he was saying that I want rights when Rahul Gandhi said, jitni abadi utna haq, and something about that debate was going on. So then he was saying कि आप हमें 14% हम हैं 14% ही हमें हक दे दो हमारा. So that shows the root cause that he believes that he doesn't even have 14-15% of his rights, even though there is not a single right that a Muslim doesn't have in this country that a Hindu has, for example, right? Yeah. So the victimhood narrative is so clearly woven that you will feel baffled at times. Even when the reformers within the community are talking about that yes, someone else's religion is as important to him as yours is to you. Or if there's someone else can be a victim too. We see that sometimes for token neutrality, we see voices from the Muslim community saying, हाँ इरोम शर्मिला के लिए हमारा दिल बहुत रोता है और बहुत गलत हुआ. Sometimes token we say कि हाँ भाई, so we see that वो किस वजह से है? It's not for a lot of empathy and sympathy for the other community. It's just to show कि हाँ, just to show Hindu community in a bad light, to throw shade at the caste thing, to throw shade at, within the, the problems within the Hindu society. So the point of contention is that when you are so hell-bent on seeing yourself as the victim, there is no amount of retribution, there is no amount of consolation that can make you happy. So this is the whole problem. And I see that we do not see a lot of voices from the community condemning non-Muslim victims of Muslim terror.
Yeah.
चाहे वो कश्मीरी पंडित्स हों, चाहे वो मुजफ्फरनगर हो, any riots that is happening. कल के अटैक में देख लो, कल के अटैक थे. आप ये नहीं बोल सकते कि हाँ इजरायली सिटीजन्स के साथ ये नहीं करना चाहिए था. इतना बोलने में आपकी जान निकल जाती है. This is where I have a problem. You criticize Israel all you want. We have a lot of problems, like Abhijit rightly pointed out many things. It plays dirty. Of course, it's a geopolitical struggle. कोई दूध का धुला यहाँ पे है नहीं. But when you say कि हाँ, it is resistance, it is intifada, it is rising up against rebellion. और एक Indian Muslim thinks he's very clever when he is saying कि हम उम्मा की वजह से नहीं कर रहे हैं. It is not about ummah. It is about the human rights of poor Palestinians. ठीक है, it is not about ummah. What about the human rights of poor Palestinians? Are they not humans? So वहां पर आपका जो human right का concern है, it goes down the gutter for some reason. So it tells that your concerns are not human rights. Your concerns are not geopolitical. Your concerns are purely communal in nature. Communal is the word. And then you have the gall to play victim. Living in India, having the audacity to criticize the current dispensation, the government, the policies, day in and day out. And when somebody retaliates by saying that you have all the rights here, then you play victim again. So it's a vicious cycle. And many times it has nothing to do with reality, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you scream you are a victim 1,000,000 times, eventually you will become a victim. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you do not understand that, you are an idiot. And if you understand that, then you have a political agenda. And lastly, I would finish by saying that for a Muslim, it is easy to say कि भाई हमारा सबसे पंगा है, हमारा उधर Jews से पंगा है, हमारा इधर हिंदू से प्रॉब्लम है, ठीक है, हमारा कम्युनिस्ट से भी झगड़ा है, हमारा क्रिश्चियन से भी उधर प्रॉब्लम है, because we are the only right community, we have the only right message. ठीक है, वो उसके लिए बोलना आसान है, सब गलत है, हम ही सही हैं. What I don't understand is a lot of leftists from the different communities who support this nonsense. How do they convince themselves कि हाँ भाई इनका सबके साथ झगड़ा है तो जरूर सब में ही प्रॉब्लम है, ये तो इनमें तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो सकती. Now how they sleep at night is beyond me, but I would say कि हाँ इसका मतलब है there is something to be done about the community. हो सकता है कि कम्युनिटी में शायद कुछ थोड़ी दिक्कत हो जिस वजह से हमारा सबके साथ प्रॉब्लम है. तो how they manage things within their head, I don't know, but I think there is a lot to be done to show कि हाँ this is not, they do not represent, like I said in the beginning, they do not represent larger Muslim community, but Muslim community needs to criticize them publicly also, just to make them aware that you do not speak for me, you do not stand for me. That's what I want to say.
Zach, you wanted to come in. I just wanted to get your view on this also, Zach. The upcoming budding Islamist Sharjil Usmani abuses Hindus on odd days here. has the gall to even call them Sada Hua Samaj. Apparently, he's so terrified that he calls the majority community Sada Hua Samaj, doubles down, says, what's the problem? Then on the day that this terror attack is done by Hamas, goes up and starts supporting Palestine, right? So he hates Hindus, he hates Jews, but he's apparently still the victim in Modi's India. So how does that work?
See, I mean, as Omar was speaking about the victimhood mentality, this is something which is never ending. I mean, when you think that you are the victim and everybody is your enemy, the Jewish people from Israel, I mean, the Jewish people are your enemies. Christians, Salabis are your enemies. And the Arab governments, they are the sellouts and Yahudi ke ghulam, okay? And then everybody is Yahudi agent. And the people who talk sense are the Sangis and the Yahudi agent. And they are paid by the Modi government. So if everyone is enemy in the world you live, then how would you survive? And I was shocked today. Somebody messaged me on Facebook, and he was telling me like, don't you see that we are on haqq? We are on haqq, and everybody hates us because we are on haqq. I told him, look, even Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had Jewish people in his army in the Battle of Uhud. What was that negotiating skills he had that he negotiated with the Jewish people that they joined his army? So you need to understand this. Unfortunately, the Maulavis and the Maulanas, they are the people who were subjected to this victimhood mentality because most of these Maulavis and Maulanas, they come from a very poor background and they face the beatings and the the punishments at the madrasas. So I mean, the mentality they go through, the childhood they go through very disturbed childhood, and because of this they have this a victimhood mentality, and they hate the rich people, they hate the progressive people, and they try to speak against them, and because of this reason a whole narrative of victimhood get instilled into the community. At the same time, you have these leftists and the communists who also instill this victimhood mentality. I remember Rajdeep Sardesai who tweeted about this, that the plane incident, right? The plane incident in which the Mishra, that guy who urinated in the plane, and a case was filed against him. So Rajdeep Sardesai said that if he were to be Khan, then the whole case would be different. So he was the one. I mean, nobody thought about it. So he was pushing this victimhood mentality. So yeah, if we go through this cycle, then obviously everybody will you see as enemy. I remember I was in Delhi in April, and I was traveling to Kashmir from Delhi. So I was in the bus, and two people in front of me, they were talking about Yogi ji ki jai ho, the way he is dealing with Atiq Ahmed. Atiq Ahmed was shot dead at that time. They were talking about it, and I know that they were talking on purpose so that I could hear and I could react to that. So I didn't react to that. And coincidentally, I didn't have the local currency. I had reals with me. So the what you call that ticket collector, he came to me and he said that where's your ticket? I said that the guard told me that you just show the boarding pass and you can go free. He said no, you need to pay. I said that I don't have local currency. What I need to do now? Then I told him, like, I have come here to Delhi and I'm traveling to Kashmir on the invitation of the government, and I'm participating in White 20. And when he heard that, I mean, the person who was talking about this Yogi Ji Ki Jai Ho, and he was trying to take my reaction, that guy, he came forward and he gave ticket in my behalf. So this happened. So what I'm trying to say that these things happen in every society, but you don't have to react to it. You don't have to play victim to it, and you don't have to push this victim mentality. I could do this. I could come the next day or the same day. I could go on the Twitter and I could tweet like, this happened to me just because I'm a Muslim with a beard. I was traveling in a bus and there were two Hindus in front of me. They were talking the Yogi Ji Ki Jai Ho because I'm a Muslim. They were trying to taunt me. They were passing the sarcastic comments against me. I could say that, but I didn't react to that situation. And I believe that if every Muslim have some patience at the situation will definitely come down. And in fact, I remember the verse in the Quran, because I'm a practicing Muslim. There is a verse in the Quran which says that if you have patience, then your enemies will become your cordial friends. Yes, they will become, but you need to have some patience, some maturity. You need to react to situations with humbleness and wisdom. At the same time, I would like to mention about the hadith which Abhijit ji just mentioned. The hadith about the Jew hiding behind the rock, and the rock will be saying that there's a Jew behind me, come and kill him. So there is a funny incident I would like to narrate, that a Jew and a Muslim were traveling in a plane, and the Muslim looked at the Jew wearing that kippah, that, and with the beard. He looked at the Jew and said, in our hadith, it's mentioned that before the end of times, you'll be hiding behind the rocks, and the rocks will gonna say that there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. So the Jew smiled and said, maybe at the time I'll be a Muslim and you'll be a Jew. so so the Muslim, he got shut up, because this is seriously illogical when you talk about these things publicly. Yes, we know that every religion has certain beliefs. Even the Christians, they believe that no one can go to heaven except through Jesus Christ. The only way to heaven is through Jesus. The only salvation through to heaven is through Jesus. But they don't talk about that in public. I mean, you have your own beliefs, but how you exercise those beliefs in public is the actual matter, is the matter of affair. So we need to keep this in mind as well. At the same time, you mentioned about Gauhar Khan. Gauhar Khan is supporting Palestine. She is living her life as she wants, and at the same time, she is supporting Palestine. Gauhar Khan is nothing in front of Mia Khalifa. I remember there was a video of Mia Khalifa with the song Damme Falastini, Damme Falastini. I mean, there was a song behind it, and she was motivating her fans that we need to support Palestine. So yeah, we don't need such people to support Palestine. The people like Mia Khalifa, she's a hardcore leftist, by the way. So yeah, I mean, and I was surprised that a lot of people, just because she was supporting Palestine, a lot of people were sharing her clip. People, they talk about Sharia, they talk about Islam, they talk about how strict we have to be. They say that Mohammed bin Salman, he's deviating from the right path because he's implementing something which is not from the Sharia. But at the same time, they promote the people who don't follow Sharia. So it's seriously, weird situation. And I really support Abhijit's comment about the leadership of the Palestine. There is a whole interview of Prince Bandar bin Sultan Al Saud on Al Arabiya. You can watch that interview. In fact, you can read the transcript of that interview, in which Prince Bandar, he said that the Palestinian cause is just a cause. He said this: the Palestinian cause is just a cause, but it advocates our failures, and the Israeli cause is unjust because its advocates have proven to be successful. At the same time, he mentioned that the Palestinian leadership historically share in common. They always bet on the losing side. So yes, this is the reality, and every Saudi understands this. Every Emirati understands this. Every Bahraini understands this, that the leadership in Palestine is the failed leadership. I can say the same problem with Kashmir. You can say that the pattern between Palestine and Kashmir it's gonna be the same. The leadership in Kashmir, the Gilanis and all these guys, I mean, all the children. Some of them live in Pakistan, some of them live in Saudi Arabia, some of them in Dubai, some of them in UK. But look what they have given to the common Kashmiris. Yeah, this is the problem, not even with Palestine, even with Kashmir. The Kashmiri youth were radicalized, and the people who were radicalizing the Kashmiri youth, their own children were well off. So this is the problem in the Muslim world, the lack of leadership. And you can see the places where the leadership is able, for example, Saudi, Emirat, and Bahrain, you can see the people are thriving. The common people are thriving, not only the people, the citizens, even the residents like me, who have come all the way from India to work in Saudi Arabia, and it's been like 15 years now. I've been working with Saudis, Emiratis, Bahrainis, so you can understand this because of the leadership. The women are thriving, the youth are thriving. So yeah, it's all about the leadership. I think if the leadership changes, but to be honest, we don't even have a hope that the Palestinian leadership will gonna change and people will support the change in leadership. We seriously don't know what will gonna happen. Yes, the two-state solution is the solution which can make a Palestine an independent state. If Palestine becomes an independent state, obviously it's gonna get the support from the world powers. But as we were discussing about geopolitics, Israel will not let that happen, because they know that the Palestinian leadership is the failed leadership, and there are a lot of loopholes in the Palestinian leadership, and yeah, this is the whole crux.
Right. On Rajdeep, I got reminded. I had an interaction once with them on the whole, injection of Muslim victimhood. Some criminal did something, and Rajdeep said, "What if this was a Muslim?" And I commented down. I said, "You would have painted him a victim." So he got damn rattled, and he wrote down, and he deleted it. And next day he came again. Cheers. I do not differentiate. Between this blah blah blah.
I wanted to ask a question to Abhijit and Zahak,
Sure.
and whatever Abhijit said about, to describe about Hamas leadership, Zahak also said. I noticed patterns. Zahak rightly said there's a pattern, right? The Hurriyat leadership, okay, the Hamas leadership, the Iranian regime. Why is it always that the state almost always wants to negotiate with the kind of leadership that doesn't actually advocate the aspirations of the people? Iranian regime is a theocracy. You have seen what the people want, but in the geopolitical sense, the regime will be propped up, right? Hamas, again, you explained it perfectly. Israel is the one who is keeping them in power. I am critical of my government for the policies it had for the past decades, what we generally call as the Dulad doctrine, right? It did a lot of damage on the ground. Why is it always that secular democracies or liberal democracies or people in power always want to negotiate with people who are in complete, tangentially completely different from the aspirations of the people? My whole work revolves around these silenced voices within the community. I know there are Palestinian dissenters. I know they don't support Hamas. They have absolutely no problem living with Israelis. There are Israeli Arabs living in Israel. They are the most under-advertised in our world, at least. If you talk to Muslims, they say, "Acha, we didn't know." They have no problems living with Israel. Same way goes for Iran. You've seen it on the streets. They don't hate the West. There's no great big Satan or anything. And in the valley also, for the last 30 years, there were secular progressive Muslims who said, we have no problems with India. We are not for Azadi. We don't want the Pandits to be ethnically cleansed. But their voices never reached the government until the Modi government came in power. So why is it always? And I'm seeing a pattern, it can be in Morocco as well. It can be in Tunisia as well. In the Maldives also, it is the same thing. Atheist Maldivians in touch, they say the government or somebody in power always wants to negotiate with the most regressive elements who profess to say that we are the, voice of the people. In India as well, in the power corridors, what I generally call as the Kashmir whisperers, they are always regressive people. It's never the progressive Muslims who are listened to. What is the catch? What is the allure to talk to them only?
Because the more extremist you are, the more powerful you get. See, an extremist is a fundamentalist, and they create around them networks of people willing to die for their cause. The average person who lives in between, which is 90% of any population, probably 99% of every population, they just want to live. They want to have kids, they want to go to a cinema theater, they want to go have a drink, they want to go eat kebabs or, I don't know, yakhni, gushtaba, whatever. They don't have time for the scrap. How does a person who is not willing to die compete with a person who's willing to die for his beliefs? Number one. Number two, why do states negotiate with people like this? Because people like these hijack society. Invariably. For example, being a Kashmir, that Mehbooba and Omar personally are the most secular people who exist in their personal lives. In their public lives, they're absolute disgusting demagogues. Okay. Do you think the Iranian leadership has a very style of? Do you think their private lives are anything Imam Hussein and Imam Ali would ever approve of?
No.
No. If either of them saw what half these mullahs' personal lives that they lead, they would.
I've seen the video. I know what you're referring to. I've seen the
You know exactly what I'm referring to. I think we've all seen those lovely videos.
I think Zahan also
so-
knows it, what we are talking
Yeah.
about. Yes. Personally,
yeah.
it's everywhere. Even the Hurriyat, the Mirwais, the discotheques, which nobody talks about. I know all of that.
But so Iran has an extraordinarily corrupt and libertine and absolutely godless leadership. Okay, godless at the next level. But because they control the institutions and things, they have a control over society. What are you going to do? At some point, you have to talk to them. At a state level, it can't be avoided, unfortunately. Unless you're willing to do regime change. What India did in August of September, it was August of 2019, was essentially regime change. America tried regime change and it went horribly wrong because they're morons.
Yeah.
Here we understand Kashmir because it's a part of us. Would you trust America or Israel to do regime change in Iran or this thing to make them moderate? I won't trust anybody to do that. And this was done very peacefully. There it'll have to be done with military force. And you can't do what you're doing to Pakistan, which is just completely, or you can do what you're doing to Pakistan, which is completely ignore them. But we're very lucky that Pakistan is bankrupt and they're not financing terror attacks. The moment they finance terror attacks in India, what will happen is it will come to escalation point. The whole world will step in saying, oh, nuclear escalation possible, and you two have to talk, and there'll be massive pressure on us to sit down and talk. And so the policy of ignoring Pakistan for the last 5-10 years will end, and you will be forced to talk to them. What do you do? Other countries, Iran is bankrupt, but they don't seem to know they're bankrupt. But other countries, Qatar is not bankrupt. So how does Israel do this when there are 2, 3, 4 people lined up against you? These are very complex things. There's no linear answer for it.
Zach, you also want to answer that?
No, I fully understand this. Usually the governments and the states, they engage with dialogue with the most extremist elements. It happened in Afghanistan as well when Saudi Arabia was dealing with the Afghan Mujahideen. They were directly dealing with the Afghan Mujahideen. They tried their best, and when Osama bin Laden was controlling Al Qaeda, so they even had negotiations, talks with Al Qaeda. It didn't happen. It didn't work out. And they also had discussion directly with Mullah Omar, Prince Turki Al Faisal. He went directly to Mullah Omar's den. He spoke to him in his cave, and it didn't work out. Yes, usually the states, they try to engage with the most extremist elements, because the most extremist elements, they play with the emotions of the people. They control the emotions of the people. The Iranian regime, they have this Quds tag on them, and they say that we are fighting for Quds, and the nuclear bomb which we will be creating, it will be used for the elimination of Israel, because Israel has illegally occupied Palestine. So this is what they have. So they usually play with the emotions of the people. And obviously, as Abhijit was speaking about, the 70% of the people in this graph of 70 and 20 and 10, the 70% people, they don't care about the politics. They don't care about who's ruling and who's not. 70% of the people will be mostly engaged with the education of their kids, the hospital bills and the electricity bills, how I need to pay my rent. I mean, most of the people, they will be engaged and trapped with these issues. And 20% people, yes, they will be the people who will be transferring the ideology from the 10% people to the 70% people. So the governments that try to engage with that 10% of people, so that if they get on their side, then obviously the 20% will be subsided and the 70% people will not be under their influence. And when this doesn't happen, so there is another way to deal with them, that is to deal with them under the tables, to get them arrested or to do the regime change. So the problem is only with the 10%, and this 10%, they are kind of controlling the whole society, the whole institutions, the public institutions, the religious institutions, the commercial institutions, everything. So only the 10% people, and the 20% people, they work as the communication channel between this and this. So yeah, this is the problem. This is the harsh reality we have to live with.
So there's a term for it, hijacking of society. And you're telling me there's no solution to it? The Palestinian issue has been hijacked by Hamas. We were hijacked for a long time. And Iranian regime, everywhere that you see, it's the 10%.
To be honest, the problem with the Indian Muslims is the same, the lack of leadership.
Yes.
We are about 250
government
million.
Is constantly talking to the OAC types.
OAC
it doesn't
types,
engage
yes.
with people who are progressive. It
Yes.
doesn't even see them, doesn't even bother. But
I was recently watching
understand,
Oasis video interview on why he didn't support the women's bill in the parliament. And instead of responding academically, what Oasis did was he was saying that somebody asked Oasis, like, who is on your side? He said, no matter who is on my side, but Allah, his Rasul is on my side. So you need to give the academic response that why you didn't support the women's bill in the parliament. So you need to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But he was speaking completely irrelevant stuff, like Allah and his Rasul is on my side. So, there's no way out. If we have people like this, then seriously, there's no way out.
Amna, you want to wrap this up with the last question? Maybe you want to ask like a 2-minute to everyone.
I think I want to ask question with Arshadi. Basically, it's about the women I want to bring in. So, especially these elite women. I call them ashraf also, but more than those women who are living very liberated life. And as I'm asking this question right now, Gohar Khan is giving me an entire lesson in Hamas and uske conflict mein, because I tweeted and she did not like my tweet, so usne re-quote karke mujhe pura bataya ki how I am wrong and how I don't know historical
Who did that?
This starlet, the small-time starlet called Gohar Khan.
Gohar Khan, wo jo Big Boss mein aayi thi. So I didn't reply her though, but she's giving me entire chapter that how I am very ignorant. I don't understand the context. And if Hamas is basically terrorist, what I'm saying, so फिर तो Israel पूरा terrorist state ही है. That's what the argument she's making. She re-quoted me.
You know what my opinion is about these?
No.
I have tweeted. They are more wanting to come into the club of the Valla Bros, for celebrityship and the likes and everything.
I got very captivated by these women that they know their existence won't be possible. सबसे पहली टारगेट वो होंगी जो वो लाइफ स्टाइल जीती हैं. How could they support like
hypocrisy? किसको कहते हैं, right? You see Arana, the way she dresses. You've seen Arfa, the jet setting and everything. But वो भी है ना कि they are not bothered for the upliftment of women. They are not bothered. They would have started.
But look, see, they justified claiming that they fight for choice. If you want to wear a burqa, you wear a burqa. If you want to wear a short skirt, you should wear a short skirt. Right? The problem, see, this is a fig leaf. Because what happens is, they fight for the burqa much louder than they fight for the short skirt. They don't fight for the short skirt at all, except a cursory tweet. It is a tweet for a short skirt, a campaign for a burqa. And that is where you know it is uneven.
Problem is not even that, Abhijit. The problem is the hijab is a non-issue for millions of Muslim women in India. Right?
I am trying to understand.
If they had started lining up at the courts and seeing the kind of cases that are there pending, domestic violence, despite the abolition of the triple talaq, the men have found a way to navigate against it, and ab to wo totally hi abandon kar rahe hain. They found a way. If they really meant the empowerment of women, they would have hijab is a non-issue. We negotiate it, through our lives. We negotiate all these restrictions.
But see, in that case, it's fantastic to make it an issue because then you don't talk about the real issues.
Hana? So what does
it's
that
diversion.
mean?
It's classic diversion. Anyway, guys, I have to run. I have to run.
Sure. We're also wrapping. Thank you, Abhijit, for coming.
Thank you.
I think it's absolutely wrong. ये वाला बाद में discuss कर लेंगे कभी.
Okay. ठीक है. Just last, I wanted to get last comments.
Amana, I want to listen to you, but it's just that Abhijit से मैं पूछना चाह रही थी. Amana, go ahead. What did you want to say about these women?
I don't understand कि it's like a very basic, straightforward thing that you would be the first target, your lifestyle would be first target. Mia Khalifa को अगर Palestine में रहने का मौका मिले, तो the choices she has made in her life, वो choices वो उस regime के अंदर बना पाएगी क्या? वो जी पाएगी? वैसे नहीं जी पाएगी. गौहर खान जिस तरह की लाइफ जी रही है, बॉलीवुड में काम करती है, बिकनी पहनती है, I do not criticize her for her choices. It's उसका चॉइस है, जैसे जिए. बट द काइंड ऑफ पीपल दे आर सपोर्टिंग. अगर तालिबान तो आने के बाद उसने तो यहाँ तक दिखाया कि दे आर नॉट इवन लेटिंग विमेन स्टडी. कपड़े की तो बात ही छोड़ दो. तो इनके दिमाग में ये बहुत बेसिक सा कंसेप्ट कैसे नहीं आता कि
मेरी जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग है वो ये है कि अगर वो एक्चुअल इश्यूज में पड़ेंगे तो उनका जो नैरेटिव बिल्डिंग है ना, वो अनसक्सेसफुल हो जाएगा. फिर बात सारी फोकस चली जाएगी ना जो रिग्रेसिव प्रैक्टिसेस इन इस्लाम है, राइट, जो रिग्रेसिवनेस चल रही है, एंड वो डेंजर एरिया है. उसमें इनको जाना नहीं है, क्योंकि आपका सारा एम है जेट सेटिंग लाइफस्टाइल. आपको एक इजी लाइफस्टाइल चाहिए, आपका पैसा आना चाहिए, आपका कॉलम चलना चाहिए, है ना, ये सब है. इफ यू स्टार्ट गेटिंग इनटू एक्चुअल एक्टिविज्म, जो करती हैं, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ ब्रेव वुमेन इन इंडिया जो करती हैं, उनकी रातें निकल जाती है सिटिंग डाउन एंड फाइलिंग दोज केसेस. इवन ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग के अगेंस्ट जो करती हैं, राइट. These are difficult areas. आप ऐसी लाइफ चाहते नहीं हैं. It's very difficult to work with the children survivors of abuse, women survivors of domestic violence. आपको बैठ के उनका देखना पड़ता है, सुनना पड़ता है. It's not a very inviting life. But चूंकि आपका ये एजेंडा है, आपने पार्टी भी करनी. You've seen Arfa's photos in Times Square. If your whole thing is about having a great life, तो आप क्यों फिर ऐसे मुद्दों को उठाएंगे? आप तो वही करेंगे, कि yes, you picked up a cause which is a global cause. Islamophobia is an industry. It's become an industry. All you need to do is scream Islamophobia. तो मेरी तो अंडरस्टैंडिंग यही है. आई हैव टॉक्ड विद देम. हमारे वो मैडम अथर जिया, she's been my teacher actually, and then years later I found out she was settled abroad and she had done an anthropology course, and she was the one screaming the loudest, stand with Kashmir. And I was like, तुम कैसे, you don't even live here and you have no idea कि हमारे पे कितना यहाँ पे हड़ताल कैलेंडर का फर्क पड़ रहा है. जो डेली वेजर है, जब हुर्रियत ये सारा हड़ताल बोलती है, he didn't get money to have खाना नहीं मिलता था उसको शाम को खाने को. एंड ये मैडम नॉर्वे में बैठ के, डीडन यूनिवर्सिटी में बैठ के कहती हैं कि फ्री कश्मीर ऑक्यूपेशन है. सो आई, इट्स नॉट लाइक आई हैव नॉट टॉक टू देम. पर फिर मैंने यही देखा, अब्रॉड बैठ के अपना वो लाइफस्टाइल करके वो सारा करे, इनका वो एजेंडा है. इफ दे रियली गेट इनटू इट, इट्स अ वेरी डिफिकल्ट लाइफ एंड दे डोंट वांट दैट काइंड ऑफ लाइफ. तो यही है मेरा कि दे डोंट वांट दैट.
विक्टिमहुड इंडस्ट्री का धंधा है, ड्रग पेडल करते हैं विक्टिमहुड का, और रात को पार्टी करते हैं और सुबह
ऐशो आराम चाहिए.
एग्जैक्टली.
वो लेफ्टिस्ट जो दिल्ली में रहते हैं ना, उनके यू शुड सी पॉश बंगलोज में मरहूम दानिश फोटोग्राफर, कहना तो नहीं चाहिए, बट व्हेन आई सॉ द फ्लैट दैट ही हैड इन अ पॉश एरिया ऑफ दिल्ली. मेरे पास अभी घर नहीं है, आई लिव इन रेंटेड क्वार्टर्स, आई स्टिल हैव अ चाइल्ड जिसको मुझे पढ़ाना है. यू शुड हैव सीन द पॉश एरिया. आरती के बगल में उसका फ्लैट था. And when I saw that flat, I was like, how could he afford this? Nizamuddin mein, this is one of the poshest areas. But वही था जो उसने वो pictures COVID में की, which really stuck me also, क्योंकि you do not do that. You do not make money out of death. वो जो फोटोग्राफ उसका सबसे वायरल हुआ था। तो ये है, इट्स नॉट लाइक आई हैव नॉट मेट दीज पीपल, पर इनका यही होता है अपना एक लाइफस्टाइल।
इनका तो खानदानी राना अयूब का तो भाई भी यही
हाँ,
करता है, बहन
जो
सुबह हिंदुओं को गाली
एक्चुअल
देती है, भाई
एक्टिविस्ट है
शाम
ना,
को हिंदुओं को गाली देता
जो
है।
एक्चुअल एक्टिविस्ट है ना, उनको
हाँ।
मेंटल ट्रॉमा होता है, पीटीएसडी होता है, बिकॉज दे सिट विद दीज
Hmm.
वुमेन, स्पेशली ये जो महिला मोर्चा की हैं जिन्होंने रियली फाइट किया फॉर एबॉलिशन ऑफ ट्रिपल तलाक, व्हेन दे सैट विद दोज वुमेन एंड देखा कि होता क्या है, कितनी अबैंडनमेंट है एंड कितना उनकी लाइव्स खराब हो चुकी हैं बिकॉज ऑफ दिस, देन दे वेंट इनटू इट एंड लकीली द गवर्नमेंट लिसन टू इट। लेकिन हमारा फिर वही कंसर्न होता है कि दे शुड बी लिसनिंग टू द एक्चुअल विक्टिम्स जो हैं, देयर आर विक्टिम्स देयर, but not the ones who are portraying themselves as victims. So, yeah.
And flying that to business class in
You
Qatar
should
Airways.
do a space on this. You should do a full program on this,
Then,
Amana, and actual
Yeah, the
activists को
hypocrisy of the
बुलाना
left.
चाहिए। आपको ये इमेज चेंज करनी पड़ेगी कि राना अयूब is not an activist, Arfa is definitely not an activist.
Great
There are
opportunist.
actual activists on the ground and उनकी lives बहुत hard होती है। वो खुद भी किसी चीज से गुजरी होती है, इसीलिए वो मोटिवेशन होता है उनको to help other people. But they have very difficult lives खुद की।
Absolutely.
So
And these
without-
guys
यहाँ
are
पे जो
brilliant
सबसे
actors who
हाँ।
pretend to have difficult lives.
Zahak wants to say something. हाँ
Zahak,
हाँ
yeah.
डॉक्टर साहब बोलिए।
नहीं, यहाँ जो सबसे बड़ा इशू है वो यही है कि सामने की सफ़ों में टोपी वालों को और दाढ़ी वालों को ठहरा देते हैं, और पीछे से ये लोग बैठ के जो है सब ये करते हैं। और यहाँ पे यही हमारा इशू है कि अगर आपको करना ही है तो आप करिए, मुस्लिम आइडेंटिटी, मुस्लिम कॉज, मुस्लिम फेस, व्हेन व्हाई यू नीड ऑल दिस? सो दिस इज दिस इज द
इंडस्ट्री है, एक इंडस्ट्री बन
Yeah.
चुका है।
इंडस्ट्री इतनी है कि राना यहाँ सुबह लिखती है, भाई शाम को लिखता है, फिर यूरोप में जाते हैं, यूएस में जाते हैं, वहां इंडिया को गाली देते हैं, फिर वापस आते हैं, फिर यहाँ बॉलीवुड के साथ पार्टी करते हैं।
एंड डिस्पाइट बीइंग एक्सपोज्ड की फ्रॉड किया है, शी हैज टेकन मनी फॉर कोविड में इतनी सारी डेथ्स हो गई, राइट? You do not do that, and she's called out for it. उसको बोलते भी है मुंह पे कि तुमने ऐसे किया है, and उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता।
क्राउड फंडिंग का पैसा भाई और बाप के अकाउंट में डाला है, as open as shut a case.
पुलिस चार्जेस में, लेकिन वो कहते हैं ना चुल्लू पर पानी में डूब मरने का भी उसका नहीं है।
It again links की victimhood कितना deep rooted and huge sections of Muslims कि everywhere she will be a victim,
है ना? And Arfa का तो आपको पता ही है, the debate with Arif Mohammed Khan, where he actually asks her, कि आप क्या चाहती हैं? आप सीरिया में रहना चाहती हैं? तो what do you want to do? And she is like, नहीं, यहाँ पे तो हो रहा है, इंडियन मुस्लिम्स के साथ जेनोसाइड हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है। This is it.
So it's been a very enriching debate. Just want to now wrap it up because we are going to touch 2 hours. This is going to be our longest. I want to just give my 1 or 2 minutes, and I would want all the panelists, and then Amna, you can give your last 1 or 2 minutes. But let's try hurrying it up on what we feel currently. This is what I feel. I can never support anyone, myself first, apologizing, justifying what I saw day for yesterday, what happened with those Israeli civilians, what happened with those foreign nationals, that German young girl who had come for a rave party, for a music festival, and her dead body being paraded. Similarly, women taken like that, 2 more videos I saw. Nothing justifies that on the face of this planet. Absolutely nothing. I can never support Hamas for that. 1. Number 2, I drive no thrill in the retaliation that Israel state is coming. But as a rationalist, this is how a nation state will respond, right? So this is not a video game. I'm not happy hearing that 200 Palestinians have died, 100 Israelis have died. These are people like you and me. We just by luck are alive. These people are dead, right? So I hope, I pray it stops. I know that this cycle sadly will again happen. One just hopes that rationality and, a good leadership, as Zahak said, comes up someday. But it is sad on both fronts, right? That is my view on it. Zahak, your last few comments?
Yeah, I would like to say that in the current situation, we know that what will going to happen. We know that what Israel has. We know that the technology Israel has, the weapons Israel has. So, and knowing all this, having known all this, you attack Israel with the rockets, and you know that what will come after it, and you know that if that comes, then the Palestinians will have to face the brunt of this whole thing. And by keeping all this in mind, you still want to provoke Israel, and you're jeopardizing the lives of the innocent people back home and in your own territory. So the faction which has to be held responsible is the faction which is provoking the whole conflict, and that's Hamas. And if you really want to have peace in the region, the first thing which you have to do is to control the mischief makers. That's it.
Right. Arsha?
My point is that I'm going to reiterate, the Hamas doesn't represent the Palestinian people. And there are lots of dissenters of this whole Palestinian conflict. They have no issue living with the Israelis. They would love to have a solution. They would love to have talks with the Israelis. Unfortunately, their leadership doesn't represent them correctly. It's a corrupt leadership, as we have established in this program. And it would do well to have, understanding of the situation, that the Palestinians themselves, yes, there are few, you do see them jeering on the street, but it doesn't mean that 99%, 100% Palestinians are with the terrorist organization. That is something which is coming out of experience from Kashmir as well. Remember, we were Kashmiri nationalists, Indian nationalists there, and our voices didn't come out for 2 decades at least. It took a long while. So this has to be kept in mind. The 10% that control the narrative are the ones who are the loudest. They're almost like a mob. They are armed and dangerous, and they constantly hijack the narrative. So that has to be kept in mind. But at the same time, combatant, in a war, it has to be between combatants. You do not ever touch civilians. They are off the limits. That's why there are certain rules to war. There are certain lines that you do not cross. And what happened is extremely, there's no word for it. And Israel has a right to defend itself, of course. But as there should be solution to conflicts. I had given up on a Kashmir solution. It is there. We did solve it. There was a political will shown by the government. And if the world leaders can have some sort of a political will towards the Palestinian situation also, it would be a really great thing, because people are dying. As we speak, people are dying in Israel and Palestine. The hostages are still there. The Hamas has taken hostages and they've dispersed them throughout the land. I don't know how the IDF is going to get them back, but the bombing in Gaza is there and buildings are falling, which means people are dying. So, it's somebody who's a survivor of a conflict is never ever going to support the conflict to go on. We'll always look for solutions.
Amna, you want to say your 2 minutes and then wrap it up, please?
Yeah, I think everybody has said what I was thinking. The one thing I want to mention, that you cannot hold peace the prisoner of past. So basically, past se aage badhna padta hai. I do understand why a lot of people say that Israel is occupier. There is a historical context and everything, but there is a practical solution only is two state. And India has been very firm on that. कि हाँ, टू नेशन जो है, टू स्टेट का जो आइडिया है, वी सपोर्ट इट एंड वी हैव नेवर बीन अगेंस्ट पैलेस्टाइन इन दैट सेंस. वी ऑलवेज हैव बीन इन support of innocent Palestinian civilians, but at the same time we will not we will not be just justifying the terrorist attack of Hamas क्योंकि वो एक retaliation के फॉर्म में आ रहा है. You cannot do that. वो भी against innocent civilians के. एंड यहाँ पर मैं देखती हूँ कि सारी लाइन क्रॉस हो जाती है. इवन आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड दैट यू इन दिस जियोपॉलिटिकल entire complexity, you can take a side of Palestine and you can think that Israel is the occupier, but how could you justify that attack on a civilian, innocent civilian? And there are history filled with such example. For example, अगर आप जापान को भी लो तो उनके ऊपर बॉम्बिंग हुई थी ना, उनके ऊपर जब गिराया था यूएस ने बॉम्ब, उसके बाद जापान को होश आया है ना. सो देन दे टुक द राइट डिसीजन, क्योंकि आपको आगे कैसे बढ़ना है, आपके लोगों के आपको परवाह है, तो आप यही डिसीजन लोगे. सो समवेयर देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम विद इन एंटायर पैलेस्टाइनियन एंड हमास का जो एक स्टैंड है, उसमें भी एक प्रॉब्लम है. अगर उनको अपने लोगों की परवाह होती, उनके लीडरशिप को, लोगों के पास उतना पावर होता नहीं है जितना हम उनको देते हैं, टू बी वेरी फेयर. ठीक है, अगर हम पर जो है ब्रिटिश के लोग राज करते थे तो हमारे लोग नहीं चाहते थे कि हम पे राज करें, बट एक जनरल नॉर्मल लोगों के पास उतना होता नहीं है. बहुत मेहनत से लड़ना पड़ता है अगेंस्ट द स्टेट और जो भी पावर में अथॉरिटी में है. तो अगर जो लोग जिनके पास थोड़ी बहुत भी अकल है, पावर है, एंड दे आर इफ रियली इंटरेस्टेड इन द गुडविल ऑफ देयर पीपल, तो वो हमेशा पीस को पहले प्रिवेल करने की कोशिश करेंगे, ना कि रिवेंज और पास में क्या. So that's how I see it. And I think we have a fabulous discussion. And हमने सब कुछ इसके बारे में जो है अच्छे से डिस्कस कर लिया. And I think people should watch this episode. Long है but पूरा देखना चाहिए to get the nuances of it. Thank you.